Welcome everyone to Bastock, but also to the unit planning guide for July 19th through August 23rd. Now, a couple of important notes here. I am filming this on the day that Dialdo was released, so that is July 5th, and that is because I am out of town right now. I'm probably a broken record at this point, but this is a particularly important video to mention that in case something has changed, the schedule's changed, they've told us what's coming. We see in JP there's some sort of, summer unit coming, whatever it is. This is going to be taking place, this schedule, the week after Dark Golem comes out, and it goes all the way through August. We'll actually talk about the 5th week, August 30th, a little bit. You can see in the top right corner, I'm pulling up the schedule right now. It's on the screen. The top right corner there, you can see Faris and Syldra. It's going to be the August 30th, but otherwise down below, we have a lot to talk about here. So first of all, there's 2 weeks left in July, and these are blank weeks in the JP schedule because of the way that things have been shifted around in global. So when we try to figure out what would go there, we can't just slide things up, namely because in week 1 of August, that is when Raph is going to come. And that is typically when the Warriors of the Crystal or the Void Warriors or all these festival limited units from Another Story typically come out in the first week of the month, just like we saw with Dialdo has come out on the first week of July. So we can expect the same thing with Raph. And then after that is the Great Demon VC/Esper, which is a great get. And then after that is the week where Heal came out in JP. So we don't know what's going to come out that week. Maybe that's going to be the GLEX week. Maybe, Final Fantasy V just gets moved up. So we'll talk about all of Final Fantasy V here, but which is otherwise arriving on August 23rd, which happens to be my birthday. Wow. Okay. So you guys can all get me a wonderful birthday gift, and I can pull for lots of, Final Fantasy V characters. But anyway, let's kind of talk about each of these weeks individually and figure out what is going on. What do these characters and these vision cards do, and whether or not you should be pulling for them. While I have you all here, let's also quickly mention that this is not my 100% prediction of what's going to happen. This is a placement of where things will land if we followed JP's schedule verbatim. This is where everything would be. We already know from the last month that doesn't mean anything. Literally anything can change. This is just to help you know what is coming up chronologically so you can make a decision on what to save for. For example, we also have this silhouetted unit there with the question mark in her head, which is Lara Croft. Who knows? She could come back any of these weeks, and maybe they swung a deal with whatever that studio is, a Crystal Dynamics or something, to have her come back for a collaboration to get a Transcendence, etc., which would be pretty cool for water players, but we can't exactly predict that. With all of that said, let's talk about what could happen in the last 2 weeks of July. So here's where we could actually see a summer unit or GLEX rerun, maybe in new units of one or both or whatever. And even though summer units typically come at the end of August, this could all change just based on the way things have fallen this year. Also, we could see JP get a summer unit ahead of us, and that might actually spoil who we're going to get. And just there have been some talks about Glaciella and Venera have won some votes in JP. They're going to get some new redone characters. That could be a potentially, summer character that we would see. As for GLEX units, and by that I mean global first units, wind seems to be a good counter to earth play. So I think it is, possible that we get a wind unit, but I also think that water could use a helping hand right now, and that would really help out with Faris coming out later to get a little bit better of a combination for water to get off their feet and get a little bit more into the meta, as much as I hate to say it as a fire player. Now, who do I think the GLEX could be? Well, there are a lot of really good choices, and I'm actually probably going to make a video specifically about that. But I will say there is a unit called Sky, who is a global exclusive unit in FFBE, who is a Wind Dragoon. Now, that seems to fit really well because she would pair with Glaciella, but also that is what Dialdo is weak to, so that could be pretty interesting. There's also a Wind GLEX called Wilk, who is kind of like a half dragon man type guy. He's very cool and would also be a very neat character because he uses both an axe and fists in that game. And otherwise, Kaido would be another good pick. He is a very cool water character in FFBE and would make a very awesome water katana user to kind of pair with Astrius if he did come to War of the Visions. Otherwise, let's move on to week 1 of August, and this is when Raph should be coming. And take note, this is a big deal. This is one of those big meta swinging releases. Just like Dialdo is going to be a very important piece for a lot of accounts, Raph will equally be as important for so many other accounts. And just so you know, basically Raph and Sephiroth and another dark unit is the staple meta in JP. It's what most of the teams are. Yes, there are plenty of other effective teams, but if you're just looking at statistically, everyone's playing dark. So what does Raph do that's so important? Well, she's very similar to Dialdo in a lot of ways in that she's an innate hate tank that has magic scaling damage. She has a really great TMR. It's a HP up ability, so that's kind of neat. We don't see those too often, but it also has flat agility on the stats for the TMR, and it's an accessory. Always good to see. Very comparable stats to Dialdo, but higher starting AP and lower agility unless you equip her passive. She's weak to pierce, same as Dialdo, but very strong to strike, solid for slash and magic resistances, and she has a 100% chance to counter slash damage and reduce it by 20%. So similar to Dialdo, she can raise her own healing power, and also has the debuff reduction effect that lowers the amount that your stats can be reduced by debuffs. But unlike Dialdo, she actually has a self-heal on her kit, and she has re-raise. She can also break all the stats and even imperils dark resistance, which makes her an offensive factor that you have to consider. Just that she can lower dark resistance to let your other dark units deal even more damage is a big deal. She can also remove courage, and I will say there's one area where she's a little bit weaker than Dialdo, and that is that she has a way less single target and AoE resistance potential than Dialdo does, but she balances that out by being Dark Element. No, but seriously, Dialdo can build some nutty levels of single target resistance, and that is not going to be the case for Raph. But even with AoE resistance, she has some, but on her on-kit potential is not quite as high as Dialdo's is. Week 2 of August is going to bring us the Great Demon Esper in VC, and this is a vision card for the Dagger, Katana, Staff, Black Mage, and Mace users. And if you're wondering about elements, well, there's going to be some pretty solid teams in Wind, Water, and Light, and that's kind of like a solid showing of those units, but dark is where this is really going to be insane, because it does cover so many dark units. It covers Raph, it covers Sephiroth, but then also covers Leela. So there's just a ton of potential for this to be a mono dark card in a mono dark party. So the bestowed has magic 10% and AoE resistance 10, and then the party effect is slash resistance 24%, strike resistance 16%, and agility 15%. So we're getting 2 premium resistances, one of them at a higher rate, one of them at a lower rate, and then an agility buff, all in a single card, which is pretty insane. You're stacking a lot of different things here. This is obviously a must pull for Raph users. The Esper is a tanking Esper. It has 13 agility. It's a magic based Esper, but then the nodes are pretty interesting. So 15 defense, 5 AoE resistance on a node. So there's a chance to get some AoE resistance to stack up. And then 15% light resistance, 22% crit evasion, 5% HP, and 25% strike resistance. So another anti-strike Esper, but also just an all-rounder Esper that can be built with AoE resistance, defense, and HP, and crit evasion to generally take less damage from people. So definitely a good one to pick up. I would recommend that many people could pull the 10k to get the Esper and slow build the card, or for the people that are playing dark, they will just pull the card and build it, but also get great use out of the Esper. Week 3 of August is going to be the Hio and Galzahk week. It was at least in JP. In Global, we don't really know what is coming out this week. It's definitely going to be Galzahk, but what they actually put here, could be a summer week. This could be a GLEX week. It could be just a pushed up Final Fantasy V week, but Galzahk should be coming around here. He's an Earth MR, and he looks pretty solid, again, for these free MRs that they're giving us, but otherwise we don't know exactly what's happening here. And if you think you know what's happening here, let me know. I mean, honestly, I'm curious. Let me know in the comments. Tell me what you predict is going to come in week 3 of August. Then we have week 4 of August, which is again my birthday on August 23rd. And we'll start by talking about Bartz, who is a 100 cost light handout unit. And he is really, really good. Now, considering all the other light handout units that we have here, people should seriously be able to build a very strong light team if they want. And so Bartz is a 100 cost, and they did not skimp on his stats at all. He's got all round great stats. He has a very high attack value, but also he's got pretty good stats across the board, which means he can be built for accuracy pretty well as well. So he's got great slash resistance. His other resistances are meh. He is weak to pierce, and he has an ability, very special ability, that allows him to follow up attack on enemies that his allies have attacked. So as long as Bartz is in range to use this attack, he can hit multiple enemies if they've been hit by his allies with his follow-up attack. So normally people with follow-up attacks just follow up their own attacks. This allows you to follow up even more depending on how fast your team is going. He's very easy to build for 100% defense penetration, and he's very easy to build for accuracy, as I mentioned. He also has a ton of good passives, so he can be built a bunch of different ways. He's got AP management. He has good innate, very good innate AoE resistance, and he has a big slash and parry on his LB. So he looks to be a very solid physical attacker. If he has one weakness, it's going to be that his slash pen is very much hard to quantify because he gets it on a TP buff, which can be dispelled. He has to cast that buff. Whatever it is, it's not just innately on his kit. He does get 10% innately. He gets 20% from his sword, and then he gets light, has no problem with vision cards to get more slash pen. So really, he's not going to be in trouble, but he's not one of those units that just has a lot of slash pen built up. He is seeing decent play in JP right now, but Dark is very strong currently, which is definitely suppressing him a little bit. Next up is Lenna, who is a banner unit, 90 cost wind healer. She has single target and AoE heals on her main kit, but her limit burst is also an AoE heal that gives protect and shell to everybody that it targets. Her job 25 skill gives herself re-raise and also to an ally, but also gives both of them elemental chain resistance and earth resistance up. She has a huge 40 spirit buff for her allies, but it also will reduce her chance of being targeted, and she can AoE restore AP to her allies. It's a cross AoE, 40 AP on her sub job, 40 AP to whoever it targets. Very strong. Her main kit only has a single attack. She's definitely going to be a very strong support unit. I expect her to be similar to Aerith in that it takes practice to get her AI right. She's not going to be a plug and play unit for a lot of people, and if you don't want that kind of work, it's going to be tricky to use her. And to kind of further that point, she's not seeing a ton of play in JP right now, and she's actually splitting time in win teams with Ayaka as the other healer. So for example, if you looked up the stats right now, there's actually more people that are still using Ayaka, a launch unit, than Lenna is seeing. And part of that is that lots of people probably didn't pull for Lenna, but still she's not so massive in the meta that she's bumped Ayaka out of the teams. We then have the vision card, thoughts on flying dragons, and this is for Sword Warrior, Sword Knight, and Great Sword. So this is going to be a very solid light card for Bartz, Stern, and Bradley, who isn't a light unit but fits into this group quite well. The bestowed effect is increase attack 20% and increase accuracy 8. The party effect is human killer for physical attacks, elemental chain resistance 24, and then accuracy 25. So there's also 20 AP flat stat on this card. It's a very, very solid addition to the Sword Knight category. It clashes with the Greatsword comps with the Sharpening the Dragon's Talons VC, as that also gives 25 accuracy, but still, there's room for both of them if you really need to fill out a Greatsword party. I'm definitely going to have to think about that because it is limited, but you can also put one as a sub and one as a main card, so there's ways to make it work for these cards. Either way, this is definitely a solid card. It's limited. It's going to be important for people to consider whether or not they think they're going to be using these job categories, or if you're playing light, it's pretty easy to pick it up, but otherwise you really have to want to to play one of these job categories. Okay, and even though it's not on my little week by week graphic, we are going to talk about the final week of August and Faris and Syldra. So we'll start with Faris, who is a 100 cost water physical attacker, and she is a banner character. She's not for free. This is the translation from the JP War Division's calc. She is a courageous person who organizes the roughness of the sea. Anyway, she has another TMR that gives haste for 2 uses. Very, very strong to get those types of TMRs on your characters. She has very high HP, attack, and luck stats. Her agility is low at 66, or kind of middling, but she has multiple agility buffs, both passive and active agility buffs. She has very good slash, strike, and magic resistance, but she's weak to missile, and she's neutral to pierce. She has 40% AoE resistance when she's her HP is above 70%, and she has 40% slash and defense pen on one passive, so definitely solid to build there. She has a 50% chance counter to reduce all damage taken by 20%, and very easy to build for high accuracy with lots of luck, and also a plus 30% hit chance skill. Her Job 25 skill gives Protect Shell, AoE resistance, accuracy, AP consumption down to herself, which is insane. I don't know if a buff has ever given that many things on one skill. It's definitely going to be a must cast for her. And depending on what attack Faris uses, Syldra will follow up to either buff or heal the party. Her limit burst is very, very powerful as well because it raises her own CT, but also lowers the target CT by 50. So all of this sounds absolutely incredible, but Faris is not seeing a ton of play in JP. It's all the more reason why we should get a very nice water GLEX unit or summer unit to kind of kickstart that water meta. It's not that Faris is bad, I just think that there's maybe not enough supporting cast at that time that can compete with the dark meta. At the end of the day, I guess we'll kind of find out. Maybe not enough people pulled for Faris. I find that hard to believe, but the fact of the matter is that nobody's playing her. Then we have Syldra, which is a VC Esper. The VC is for Sword Red Mage, Ninja Blade, Katana, and then Staff Devout category. So this is very good for water teams, ice teams, and kind of light teams. The bestowed is 15 accuracy and 5 AoE resistance, and the party effect is increased critical rate 30, increased spirit 12, and increased slash attack penetration 35. So obviously if you pair this with Faris, you can get a lot of use out of it, but also this goes really well with Regan and Howlet. There's a lot of applications for this card. It also comes with the Esper, and it's limited, so it's a good idea to pick it up if you think you're going to be using it. The Esper itself has 17 agility. It's an attack-based Esper and has some pretty good nodes here. So 30 slash attack, 22 accuracy, 20% attack on a node, like just 20% across like 4 nodes, and then 15% slash resistance. Now, I've said this before, but there aren't that many physical Espers with slash resistance nodes on there. And the fact that you can build this for any attacker, you don't have to build the slash attack. You can build 20% attack is really good. It's an accuracy Esper as well. So definitely lots of application here. And just like a lot of the Espers that we're seeing coming out now, they come out with those massive diamond evocation spells, which is, you know, yeah, we don't cast evocation that much, but those are big spells with big imperil. So in this case, a wind imperil and a buff for all your wind units. But to be able to have that huge range is really nice, especially for manual play, where some of the Espers that we can see have like really dinky ranges and can't really help out as much, or they're just much harder to cast. So you love to see a nice big evocation range. And with that, we've made it to the end of August, and we're going to be looking into September on the next unit planning guide. So hopefully this was useful for you and you're planning. Hopefully you know who to save for, and if you do, let me know who that is. Who are you going to be saving for? For me personally, I'm actually going to be saving up for a Dialdo rerun to hopefully pull him at another time when I can pity him, because I really do want to add him to my team rather than Raph, just because I'm more inclined to be building Earth on my account than I am for Dark. Otherwise, I'll see you all soon in another video. Thank you so much for watching.